welcome to our nervous system unit, or as I have alternately decided to entitle it, how do we control that? That's what it's all about. The first objective, objective one, parts of the nervous system. So in this one, we're going to learn the general functions of the nervous system, as well as the main anatomical and functional divisions of the system and how they work together. All right, so functions. First off, you've got three basic things the nervous system has to do for us. One, it's got to bring in sensory input. It's got to monitor changes outside the body and inside the body, right? Because it's all about trying to maintain homeostasis, keep things in balance, keep you alive. In order to do that, it needs to know what's going on outside. Is it cold? Is it hot? Is there a tiger chasing you? Do you have to catch a baseball before it hits you in the head at the baseball game? So you got to bring in that sensory input. Now, once that input comes in, it goes to the integration center where you have to decide what you're going to do about it, either consciously or unconsciously. So you take all that information, process it, and figure out what you got to do. Do you just leave it alone? Do you have to respond? And if you're going to respond, how are you going to respond to maintain your life in homeostasis? Okay. And then last part, you have motor output. This is the effectors, right? This affects a response by activating muscles or glands to make you do stuff. Catch that ball. Run from that tiger, digest that food, shiver to warm you up. All those type of things would be motor output. So you got input, senses, what's going on, decide what to do about that, integration center, and then motor output is the actual doing of it. Those are the three divisions or three main functional divisions of the nervous system. Okay. And here we can see that there's a glass of water in front of this guy. That's sensory input. He sees it. He's also probably got some input from his viscera saying that he's thirsty. Goes to the brain, says, yeah, I'm thirsty. Let's reach out and grab that glass. How are we going to do that? What motor units do we have to activate? Then he sends that signal out down the motor output to the muscles, and you can drink the water. There are two main divisions that we can separate into: the central nervous system, or often abbreviated the CNS, which would be the brain and the spinal cord. Those are mainly integration centers. Deciding what to do. And then you have the peripheral nervous system, so everything on the periphery, so everything coming off of the central nervous system, nerves coming out of the brain and out of the spinal cord to your fingers and your toes and everywhere in between. You do have to be careful when you say the abbreviated name quickly. If you say PNS easily, no problem. I'll just let you take a moment and say PNS fast 3 or 4 times in a row and see what it sounds like. Yeah, like I said, be careful. And this includes all the spinal and cranial nerves, and it's got stuff that's going both leaving the nervous system and coming into the nervous system, both output and input, sensory and motor. Now, the peripheral nervous system has 2 functional divisions, so we can divide it into 2 main sets of functions. One, already talked about the sensory or afferent division. Remember the term afferent from earlier this year when we talked about feedback loops and things like that. The afferent is the senses taking the information from the receptor to the control center. So receptor would be the nerve endings, control center might be the brain. And that we can divide into 2. We have sensory afferent fibers, which carry impulses from skin, skeletal muscles, joints, that kind of stuff to the brain. And we also have visceral afferent fibers, which you're probably not as aware of, that transmit impulses from the visceral organs in your internal settings. Do you have protein in your stomach? Do you have enough acid in your stomach? Do you have food in your bowels that you need to move out? All that kind of stuff needs to go to the brain too, so it can control that. In addition, then, that's the afferent division. Now we're going to look at the efferent division, the outgoing or motor division, and that transmits the signals from the central nervous system to the effector organs, which are either going to be muscles or glands. Because really, that's all your brain and your nervous system control, guys. It can cause a muscle to contract or a gland to secrete. So you got hormones or contraction. That's it. That's all this can actually do. All these thoughts in your heads, they're just in your heads unless you can get that information out and get a muscle to contract or a gland to secrete. Okay. Another way we can divide the peripheral nervous system is in the somatic nervous system, which is composed of all the sensory motor neurons. It's kind of concerned with the external environment and influence on the body. Okay. And it's voluntary. You have knowledge of it. You can feel it. You're aware of it, and you can respond to it. Your conscious control over how you're going to move your arms to fight the bully who's coming after you. And then you have the autonomic nervous system, which I like to think of as automatic. It's involuntary. You don't really have control over this. I'm about to lose control and I think I like it. You're not often even aware that stuff's going on, like the rate of your heartbeat, secretion of different enzymes in your body, dilation and constriction of blood vessels, all that kind of stuff inside the maintained homeostasis that's controlled by the brain is part of the what we call the autonomic nervous system, or automatic. You're not really aware of it, and you don't really have control over it. Here's another one. You got to be careful of how you say the abbreviation quickly. So the ANS, yeah, that's what it sounds like if you say it quickly. But some examples of it: heart rate, peristaltic movements in the stomach and the intestinal tract to move food through, response to temperature change, contraction of the urinary bladder. Yes, you don't have control over the contraction of your urinary bladder. You do have voluntary control over the sphincter that kind of closes off or lets it out. That skeletal muscle, that you have control over, the somatic nervous system. And generally just maintaining homeostasis, just general body homeostasis and that balance. We can divide the ANS, the autonomic nervous system, into two parts. And you see all this stuff divided into two parts of the body, right? If you got one thing that does this, there's something else that counteracts it. We got agonists and antagonist muscles, right? We've got negative feedback loops to bring things up, and then another part of that feedback loop would bring things back down to try to keep it in balance. We see the same thing with the autonomic nervous system. We have the sympathetic nervous system, the sympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system, that generally mobilizes or excites the body. Okay, this gets things going faster, stronger, harder. Think of your fight or flight response, right? If you're walking through the woods and all of a sudden you hear a giant roar behind you, okay, your brain's going to activate nerves of the sympathetic nervous system, and that's going to tell you to do things like your heart rate increase, your breathing increase, muscle metabolism increase. You're getting ready to run or to fight, right? With that sympathetic nervous system. If you activate the nerves of the sympathetic nervous system, pretty much everything speeds up, except your digestive system. If you activate the sympathetic nervous system, your digestive system will actually slow down, because your body doesn't want to waste energy digesting food when you should be running and doing that stuff. It just kind of puts that on hold because you got more important things to deal with. Okay. On the other hand, you have the parasympathetic division of the autonomic nervous system. And this one kind of just chills you out, man. Just chill. Take it easy. Take a chill pill. It slows things down. This is what gets activated when you get tired at night. Your parasympathetic nervous system starts activating, and that slows down your heart rate, slows down your breathing, slows down all these other things, except digestive system again. This one's always the reverse of the others, because when you're not putting all your energy into doing other things, then your digestive system, that's the perfect time for that to ramp up and start working on digesting that food. So I think of the parasympathetic nervous system almost like like a parachute, right? It's going to slow you down. Parasympathetic parachute slows you down. All right, and here's just a good way to summarize everything we just talked about. So we can divide the nervous system into central nervous system and peripheral nervous system. Central nervous systems, the brain and the spinal cord, those are the integration centers or the control centers, making decisions. Then we have the peripheral nervous system, which is bringing information in and out. It's everything outside the brain and the spinal cord, okay, on the periphery. And we either have input or output parts, okay? The input is the sensory or afferent division, either bringing in somatic, stuff you're aware of, or visceral, stuff you're unaware of, signals to your brain to make decisions about what to do. Okay? So it's bringing the information in, your brain decides what to do about it, afferent pathway, right? And then decides to do something, sends it out through the peripheral nervous system to the motor or efferent division, right? And so a muscle is going to contract or a gland is going to secrete, okay, for that division. And you have, that can be split into somatic, the stuff you're aware of and you have voluntary control over, or autonomic, the stuff you're unaware of and do not have voluntary control over. And that, again, can be split so that when you activate sympathetic nerves or parasympathetic nerves. If you activate the sympathetic nerves, it's going to tell whatever structure that sympathetic nerve is going to increase whatever it's doing, be that heart rate or respiration or whatever you. Or if it goes to a sympathetic nerve, that'll tell that organ or system to slow down, with, remember, the exception of the digestive system. So that are the major divisions of the nervous system, guys. Just kind of giving you a good overview. I would say this chart here at the end of the notes is probably the best thing to look at for studying this and kind of keeping it all straight. I like the way it puts it together, shows the flow charts. You can see how things get broken down. I really like this chart. I got it from Pearson Education. So go ahead and use that. I will see you next time when we discuss nerve cells themselves. Have a good day, guys. Bye.